polls. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar from Annika Digital. It's myself and Stan Lee. I'm the founder and CEO of Annika. So I'm going to be talking to you about the impact of generative AI and social search on Google's role in driving e-commerce traffic, but actually just in driving traffic generally. So although we are, the title was originally for a few e-commerce events I went to, this does apply to everybody. So first of all, we've got a couple of polls and there's some housekeeping. So the video will be available in a couple of hours and you should be able to download the handout as well. You really need to expand your screen for this one so you can see some of the detail on the slides, and we have got quite a lot of slides to go through. My colleague Darren, who's MD of Annika, who's going to be joining me on quite a few webinars going forward, it will be available in a minute and he'll answer some of the questions in the chat because Darren and myself do a lot of stuff on this together. So let's start with the polls then. I've got 3 polls. I just need to do them in the right order. So my first poll is about where you go and search for products and services. So I'm going to max this out so you can see it on the screen, but I don't think you'll see it until you've actually filled it. So I'm going to read it out for the point of the video. So what are the top 2 platforms website that you use when searching for a product to buy? I go to the shops. I go to Google. I use other search engines such as DuckDuckGo or Bing. I go straight to Amazon. I go to eBay, Etsy, or other marketplaces. This is basically anywhere that sells products on behalf of other people. I prefer to go to the brand website, such as John Lewis, Argos, Tesco's, or whoever it is. I go straight to TikTok. I use other video platforms like YouTube. I use shopping directories, cashback, or comparison sites. I use others. Okay, so you should be able to choose a maximum of 2. So please do put in more than 1 entry, particularly if you're a little bit mixed on this. And I'll give it a little bit longer. Yeah, we've got about just get up to 50 responses. There's over 75 people in the room, so let's get up to, yeah, we're over 50. Keep on putting your answer in. It's great if you can. So as you can see, the most popular is Google at 44%, and then Amazon is at 33%. You've got quite a few 8% that use brand websites. TikTok, it's 4%. And then there's a few of you using other things. Now, interestingly, I should have probably asked you all how old you were, but you'll see in a minute later in the presentation that Gen Zs, which is sort of the younger age groups, under 30, I think they are now, they are more likely to select TikTok than they are Google or Amazon. Also, another thing that's quite interesting is people tend to do the same thing all the time. So I go to Google personally because then I can, often you see Amazon results in there anyway because they do advertising. So I think this is quite useful and it does reflect pretty much what we expect. I think it does vary slightly in the UK. We're much more dependent on Google than we are in other countries, and some of the research that you see is very American based. Okay, so let's go back to the queue. Let's look at the next one. Okay, my next one is about generative AI, and I want to know which platforms you're using. So I'm going to just max that out there. So which generative AI platforms have you tried or used regularly? You can tick as many as you like. I don't use any. I use ChatGPT 3. I use ChatGPT paid. I use Gemini free. That's the Google one. Gemini paid, including, sorry for the typo, Notebook LM, Claude free, Claude paid, Perplexity, and others. And if you haven't heard about DeepSeek this week, you must have, unless it's just something you hear about in marketing and business news. DeepSeek's the new one from China. But interestingly, Alibaba did one yesterday. And notice these are all text-based ones. I'm not really including things like Midjourney, and some of and Runway, which are more image based. So this is just the text based ones. So the majority of you have gone for ChatGPT free at 41%. I definitely recommend, if it's the only thing you do this week, is go and watch my webinar on ChatGPT and invest in $20 a week to $20 a month rather, to buy the paid version. It's got incredible extra functionality. A lot of you are using the Gemini, and of course Gemini results get shown in the AI overviews, which we'll talk about later. Not many of you have got the paid version. We've actually got that. Claude free and Claude paid. Now that's interesting. There's a lot of you gone for Claude paid. Claude is, I would say, not as imaginative and as creative as ChatGPT. And Claude doesn't have the ability to go online, which is a major disadvantage. But if you're providing the information and you want something that's very well structured and quite very full out, I would say that Claude was actually better for that than ChatGPT. So you get very great answers, sort of deep and quite analytical and highly researched answers. And then others. Oh, we've got lots of others. So if you've put others, can you please mark in the chat what others you're talking about? Thank you for mentioning it's Happy Friday and Happy National Hot Chocolate Day. Very interesting. Yeah, so there are quite a lot of you, 10% of you have said others. I guess that could include the image-based ones and as well. But okay, Copilot. Yeah, Copilot is part of Bing. It's actually run on ChatGPT or GPT, OpenAI technology. And a few of you have been playing with DeepSeek. Llama's Facebook, Copilot again, which is Microsoft. I don't actually like it very much, although I think it's getting a little bit better. Yeah, I was playing with DeepSeek at the weekend, and then lots of other things came in. Now, Blaze AI is not one that I've used, so that's interesting. So it might be worth us having a look at that later. But thank you for that. That's great. Let's go and have a look at the next one. So my final question in the queue is this one. This is about how often and how proficient you think you are. Okay, no, wrong question. Done that one already. Sorry about that. Let me have a quick look. I think I've accidentally maybe I didn't save it. I did start building a third one, but it looks like I've inadvertently not saved it. No, sorry guys. Oh no, I have found it. Back to the queue. Start polling. Okay, apologies for that. I may have even hit it and didn't realize. No, that's the one we just done. Let me see. I might have screwed up on this. It looks like I didn't save the other one. I had a third poll, which obviously I've managed not to save. So we will have to abandon that. But my third question to you is, how often do you use ChatGPT? So if you want to quickly write in the notes, if you use it daily, weekly, or only occasionally, that would be the first thing. And then I'm interested in how proficient you are. Are you a beginner, advanced user, or a sort of intermediary? So if you would like to type in the chat whether you're a weekly, daily, and even how proficient you regard yourself, that would be brilliant. And apologies for not oh, okay, it did come up. I completely lost it now, but we're fine. We'll move on. I was going to say, I don't usually screw up making them. Okay, so we've got a right mix of people. Thank you for, yeah, I don't know what happened. I've obviously, it's obviously in the ether somewhere. So we'll worry about that for another day. Okay, so let's start with the presentation then. So I recommend that you use the two arrows top right and make it into a full presentation. I'm going to be doing the same. So Darren, I've just noticed, is here. So he's going to be answering the chat for me. And what I'm going to be talking about is the impacts of generative AI on and social search on Google's role in driving traffic, not just e-commerce traffic. I put this slide up every time I present, but what I have highlighted is that we've now slipped into 2025, which means I've been in digital marketing for 23 years, which is about, scarily, is about a third of my life, which is quite scary, and 18 years running Annika. So it is our birthday in February. So we've got a couple of events coming up to celebrate our birthday. If you are completely new to the Annika presentations and you don't know me personally, or you haven't seen me speak before, go and connect on Annika Stanley at LinkedIn. Okay, so I've also updated this slide. So it's 18 years of data-driven digital marketing for e-commerce and established brands. And the 5 things we focus on is strategy, social, search, shopping, and skills. We do have an academy department or division of Annika. And many of you will be learners on our DMI Skills Bootcamps course. So welcome, everybody. But we also got a lot of regulars who come every Friday morning from all over the UK and actually Europe, to be honest. We get people from all over Europe join us in our weekly webinars. So what I'm going to cover today is, these slides don't build, by the way, because I've loaded it as a PDF because it's a little bit smoother. So I'm going to cover the role of search to drive traffic, search beyond search engines, and the impact of AI on search, and that's generative AI. So first of all, the role of search to drive traffic. Now, some of these slides I've retained because there's no new data. And if any of you have been in the business for a long time, you may remember Rand Fishkin. He was the Wizard of Moz, which was one of the first big search tools that we used in SEO. And his new company, Spark Toro, which is all about influencer marketing, has worked with Datos to do a load of research on what actually happens in search engines. Now, most of his data is restricted to the US, but I have added some UK data. And their observation was this was, I think it was the top 150 sites in the US, was how much time did people actually, or how many visits did they get? And what you'll see and what you'll notice is social was over 20%. Productivity websites like email and stuff like that would be the next 20%. News, then e-commerce was right down at 11%, and search engines visits overall was only 10%. And then you go down to things like videos and financial and games and all sorts of things like that. Now, if you compare that with the traffic that is used, that we get from to our site, so what's the source of traffic, referral traffic to our websites, is a completely different picture. So this is like adding the analytics up for all of the sites in the USA, or hundreds and thousands of them, and then seeing where the traffic actually comes from, and you get a very, very different picture. And so what happens, you see, is that Google in USA is sending 63% of traffics to websites, and then the other third is made up of things like Bing, Yahoo, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, or X as it's called. Then you've got DuckDuckGo, Instagram, Amazon, LinkedIn, Wikipedia, I think that is, and then the next 150 sites are 10%. So that means that obviously there are other sites as well, is that we're highly reliant on getting from traffic from Google. And if you think about it, we're also paying for Google ads to send us traffic as well, similarly to some of these others. There are a few other weird things in there that you notice. So Reddit benefited highly in the last 18 months from a couple of algorithm changes. And actually Reddit and Twitter get quite a lot more traffic to websites than LinkedIn, which I think is quite surprising. But you'll notice that these are a mix of sort of social platforms and other search engines. Okay. But the pattern's quite different when you look at the UK. So in the UK, I've got some pie graphs to show you. The top 10 search engines or visits to sites is the blue bit is google.com. The orange is google.co.uk. Then you've got Yahoo. Then you've got Bing, DuckDuckGo. And can you see over time? This is over the last 2 years. And this is in percentages underneath, just if you want to compare. Google was about, google.com was about 83%. And then if you added in .co.uk, we were well over 90%, and it was going along quite happily. And then suddenly in April 24, not the year before when ChatGPT was invented and was launched, November 22. So, you know, not going all the way back, but basically over the last 2 years, it was really April time when the search engine functionality was launched that you got this massive growth in ChatGPT sending traffic and getting traffic to websites. Look at the impact it's had and the amount of visits it's getting. So you can see now, I think it's about 6 or 7%. ChatGPT has impacting Google visits in the UK, and it's gone down quite considerably, and by about 4 or 5% in the last 9 to 10 months. So that's a massive impact that's had on it. But you know, other things, I'm not included some of the other things like TikTok in here because that's not really relevant. But ChatGPT is definitely driving significant volumes of traffic to people's websites. Now, if you look at some of these little these little search engines that are out there, and I've actually identified about 20. I've added google.co.uk in and ChatGPT in since the last lot of research. One of the things that you'll notice is some of the volumes here. So in December, which of course was still shopping time, Google had 2.9 billion visits from 78 million people. So obviously they go back time and time again. Whereas google.co.uk was 250 million. This is just UK traffic, by the way, but people still go to google.com because it's often the default. And 23 million unique visitors. ChatGPT, 149, 14 million. So it's about a 10-to-1 ratio there. Yahoo, 128 million. And then you start to get down to things like Bing, 45, DuckDuckGo, 39, Brave. I mean, does anybody use Brave? I'd never used it until I did this research. And then interesting, Perplexity in 2.9 or 3 million and 415. Now, what I've highlighted on the right is the change in unique visitors. And what you see is in a year, ChatGPT is up more than 5,000%. Yahoo.com is 2.1%. Bing and DuckDuckGo are both down. Brave is up 55%. And Perplexity AI is up 222%. Now, I didn't include Claude because Claude is not a search engine and you can't go online. But there's also startpage.com, which again, you know, there's all these Ecosia, which I sometimes see come up in analytics, but there's all these new little search engines that are pecking at Google's dominance. So we can use a tool called Google Trends. I'm going to use it again later for some product information to see how many people have what their interest is and how many people are searching for these. And so I've done this over the last 3 years to see when you got the sudden jump in ChatGPT. Now it was launched in November. I think this is daily, these graphs. So it took a little while for it to peak. I say a couple of months there. But again, when we get round April time, when suddenly people can use it as a search engine, you've got this massive increase again, as people become more and more interested in ChatGPT. So there might have been other things going on, but that definitely around the April time in 24, you saw this massive spike of interest. Now, I thought, obviously, DuckDuckGo's been around for a few years now, and a lot of people are using DuckDuckGo because it's more privacy compliant. If you do Bing ads, you can advertise on DuckDuckGo. But I just sort of, sorry, there's Bing there. Sorry, there's Bing there, and DuckDuckGo's been around for a while as well. And then Perplexity really launched a similar time to ChatGPT, because it took data from ChatGPT, and it also took data from Gemini and other generative tools to actually create this search engine. But what I find really interesting here is I'm comparing DuckDuckGo with Perplexity, and this is UK again. And DuckDuckGo is not really losing ground, but the search volume for Perplexity is absolutely smashing it. I don't know why it jumped so much at Christmas. I'm guessing it maybe it's not quite so good for shopping and things like that. But that is quite a meteoric rise. It's not quite as meteoric as the ChatGPT, and obviously if we put that time band, you would have seen it sort of going up like this. And again, this massive growth here. But it just shows you that these other search engines are growing in popularity, and people are, I mean, I'm doing an AI training course at the moment. It's a 6-month training course. And part of what we've been taught is to making you use multiple platforms so that you get the best out of each of them, and also cross-checking your work and getting different opinions. So if you're prompting to get some ideas, don't just do it in one, do it in multiple ones. So I can see us end up using multiple ChatGPT models. But there is a tool called Outrouter.ai. If you could go and check that, Darren. I also mentioned it in my LinkedIn post this week. I'm pretty certain it's Outrouter.ai. That's one place where you can go and put your prompt in, and it actually gives you the answer from multiple models. So that's really interesting, because you can compare which one gives you the best answer. So what I did then is this data has all been taken up here, has all been taken from a product we call SimilarWeb that we use. It's a paid tool that we use. We also use it for doing specific research into your sector. So I took this data. I just sneaked this in between because I thought it's quite useful to see the sort of growth of these different search engines. But I wanted to analyze the data of the top 10 in a little bit more detail. So so the first thing that you'll notice compared with the States is that we actually are much more reliant on Google than the US. So if you add google.com and google.co.uk, we're at just under 90%. Now, you've got to remember, for the last, I don't know how long I've been doing this, but really for the last 10 years, Google's been well over 95% in the UK. So obviously I've added ChatGPT in, which is going to make a big difference, because ChatGPT gets a lot of visitors that aren't actually searching. So that's sort of a little bit deceptive. But you've got Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, Bing, they're all contributing quite a reasonable chunk, which is taking away Google's share. And now, of course, you can go to ChatGPT and just do a search while you're looking for data, and it just brings it up automatically, any search results anyway. So this is more like an answer engine than a search engine. But the interesting thing about this is, if I was just using this data, I'd probably say for the majority of clients, do you really need to bother about all of these? Possibly you might be worried a little bit about Yahoo, ChatGPT, but would I worry about all these others? Would I be really worried about getting in ChatGPT results or Perplexity results? But I think we're only going for 10% of the visits. But I think what's really interesting is when you, instead of looking at visits, you look at this from unique visitors, so the people. Because, of course, a lot of people are going back to Google a lot of times, 10 or more times. So let's see who they are. And some of these people also will go and look at these other search engines and this AI as well. So we're not very loyal. We're not very faithful to one channel. We will go and look at others. So this is the data when you look at unique visitors, and you see the situation is remarkably different, because if you add these together, you're less than 75% Google now, which means that there's 25% of the unique visitors to go for. And so we really have got a massive opportunity to diversify and go and get found in some of these other places, particularly when we know that some of them are growing so fast. That it's really important that we are found in ChatGPT and we're found in Perplexity, and a lot of these new ones that are starting, like you.com, they also are using AI to enhance their results. So I think the SEO world is going to change very quickly, particularly as we start to talk about generative search optimization, which is we call GSO, and I've got a few slides on that right at the end. Okay, so I've given you a really good introduction to how much traffic you rely on. Obviously, if you go into a specific similar web for an industry, you'll find that in most cases, the direct traffic and the search traffic will be well over 90%, which is why we spend so much time focusing on search, because whether it's Google or whether it's Bing or another, we know that whether it's SEO or paid, we know that that's going to drive most of the traffic to your website. But there is a little bit of a problem with that, because not everybody uses Google. And also, if they are using Google, what are they using Google for? So that's what we're going to cover next. We're going to look for ways of finding out where people are searching for the things that we sell or offer as a service. So first of all, what do people search for on Google? Well, this is more research from Spark, Toro and Datos. So Ran Fishkin, thank you very much. I really like the work that he does. And what's really, really interesting is they did this huge study, over 332 million searches over 20 months to uncover lots of information. And what we found was, or what they found was, that a third of the key phrases that were actually entered were branded keywords. So this could be, instead of Annika, instead of digital marketing agency, it would be Annika Digital Agency, or it would be, instead of white trainers, it would be Nike white trainers. So the white trainers would come in here, the Nike ones would come in here. So as a proportion, branded keywords, in other words, people that already were aware of you, were a third, and 2/3, or just over 2/3, were generic keywords for products or services. However, the situation is actually worse than that in some regards, because the volume of searches, because people actually are more likely to search for brands. So this isn't the number of keywords anymore, it's the searches made for these keywords. It was nearer 50%. So we've got 44% are searching for brands and 55% are searching for generic phrases. Now, if you remember my first slide, I explained that although you've got sort of 80% of people were getting their traffic from Google, and remember, these were the big sites as well. If you looked at the amount of time we were actually spending huge amounts of time on all these other platforms where we were discovering brands for the first time and then going and searching for them. Now, obviously, if you're a small brand and you've only got a limited amount of budget, actually, this is still a heck of a lot of searches, and you can get away with focusing on PPC or SEO on these searches. But if you're a bigger brand and you want to get more traffic to your website, and you want to invest in getting new people that don't know about you, then you can't just rely on this side of the graph. You've got to be looking at other channels, which we would call sort of discovery channels, to actually find people. So that could be YouTube, it could be TikTok, Meta, social, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Reddit, of course, is pretty popular as well. So anywhere where people spend their time, and they're likely to see information, or they're likely to find information, and also places like Amazon as well. But the trouble with Amazon is the people that use Amazon tend to be very loyal, and they don't tend to come off of Amazon. And you could say the same about social. So things like Meta, they might see an advert for a new brand, but are they necessarily going to click through? And if they do click through, are you tracking it correctly anyway? But some of these are particularly interesting, and that's TikTok, because you can do the searching in TikTok and you can buy in TikTok. But so that is a sort of changing the way we think about this quite a lot. So let's have a look at other reasons that people search and the type of intent. And I think I probably should have put this one first. So the other really interesting thing about Google is that a lot of the time people are looking for information, about 50%. So over here, this is, places, names of people. I'm asking questions. So the long tail searches of what is content marketing, or how does ChatGPT work. And then you've got a massive trunk of what we call navigational searches, which is where people can't remember the URL, or they just type TikTok, or they type Facebook, or they type Annika Digital, because they can't remember how to spell Annika Digital. And then as soon as they search on that, they immediately go off to another website. So they're basically using it as a sort of a directory. Then you've got commercial phrases. So this is about businesses and names. And then you've got transactional, which is the shopping, which is tiny when you look at it. So less than 1%. So if you then cross this over with the brand stuff, obviously a lot of the navigational is going to be brand. Quite a bit of the transactional and commercial will be brand. And I'm guessing some of this will be, the content marketing that we do with our SEO, where we try and create blogs. So if somebody asks about what is CRO, or how do I create a custom GPT, then you're going to get websites that have got the answers to that information, and then it will go through. Of course, assuming that Google doesn't answer it for you and put the results at the top. Okay, so let's have a look at some recent data. So this is data for the whole of 2024, because I couldn't find newer data for some of the other stuff that I've got. And what it shows you is worldwide, and whereas we were in our small survey of sort of 100 people, we chose Google as the most popular. Marketplaces like Amazon is the most popular. Browsing in store, so people still go and actually shopping is incredibly popular still. Direct to consumer branded sites, so this is our John Lewis's and Argos's. Retailer sites, not quite sure what the difference between those are. So this might be a something like this could be something like John Lewis, because we know that they're a retailer, but this could be, I don't know, doors.co.uk or cattery.co.uk. They're e-commerce sites that or it could be a brand like Nike, which obviously sell through the retailers and probably through Amazon as well. And then search engines in this data actually comes out at only 12%. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they don't do more than one, but it's quite an interesting look at the data worldwide. And I think this is reflective of how different countries are much more e-commerce savvy. I think after China and the US, the UK is the third biggest e-commerce market in the world for the number of sales and visits to e-commerce sites, although that data may have changed recently. So I do have a little bit more research, but it's a little bit older. This is from last year. So this is a US e-marketer looking for products where US consumers start their search within online shopping. So this is specifically online. So Amazon is by far the biggest. Then you've got search engines, Walmart. Target appears there. So Walmart and Target are big retailers, but they also act as marketplaces, and they also come under the banner of retail media, because Amazon and Walmart and Target not only can a lot of people that sell e-commerce products can advertise and put their products on there, but they can also do ads on there as well. And in the case of Amazon, it's one of the fastest growing ad platforms, growing something like 26% in the last year. Then you notice YouTube, because of course YouTube's got lots of search functionality, Facebook, Instagram, Target, and TikTok and Pinterest. So TikTok has now overtaken Pinterest. So that's sort of coming up quite rapidly. And then interestingly, Adobe did a research in April 24, and looking for information, TikTok actually came out fourth, but you can see the search engines are more popular here. I would suggest that Reddit's probably gone up the pecking order in this. But also it's also consumers rather than businesses. So that's going to bias the results. Now, as part of doing this research a year ago, I also came across this study called Her Campus, which was published in eMarketer. And these are some key facts. And the ones in pink refer to Gen Zs. I can't remember the age of Gen Zs now without looking it up. I think it's under 30. And then this is also the use of business. But what you'll notice is that at this time, it's probably more than 64% of Gen Zs are active on TikTok. 74% use TikTok for search, and 51% of TikTok favor, Gen Z's favor TikTok over Google. And of course, that number's going to get bigger as new generations come in. I mean, my granddaughter and all her friends, she's 11. They spend so much time on TikTok. They spend a lot of time on YouTube and actually Snapchat, because they can talk to their friends, and they use it as a sort of communication channel. You know, she wouldn't consider emailing. She might use WhatsApp just because she can get effectively a phone call. But Snapchat is where they spend hours just talking to each other. Now, this data is from that study. I've got some recent data for the last sort of week. But new recipes, new music, DIY tips, fashion advice, workout routine, beauty advice. So it's not all the stuff that you just expect it to be, which is the sort of fashion and beauty, the fast moving goods. There's quite a lot of others. You've got travel destinations, you've got book recommendations, health tips, design, DIY. I can't believe that's so high. But that's good, because it means that this, if you want to sell on TikTok through the TikTok shop, where, I mean, it used to be only 5% commission, it's now 9%, but that's still half of what you pay in Amazon, for example. And you've got all the creators that you can use as influencers to market your product for you. TikTok is becoming, one of the fastest growing platforms for e-commerce at the moment. So one of the things that we might want to consider is first of all, is there a demand for our product on TikTok, and how does that compare with Google? And how do we get data from platforms like TikTok to actually understand whether it's a place we should be doing organic TikTok videos, or whether we should create a TikTok shop, or whether we should use the advertising network, or whether we use ads, or whether we should use the creative network to get other people to write content and pay them a commission or pay them sort of a fee. So I had a look at search trends, and I did a load of research in this on summer dress in the summer. And of course, obviously now it's winter coat, and you can see their search trends are sort of completely opposite. So when one is high, the other is low, and vice versa. And you can see that they're both gradually increasing, and summer dresses is 12% over last month versus the year before. Of course, December is not exactly the time to buy summer dresses, although people will go abroad, I guess. And then winter coats, 399 searches past month, and that's up 5%. So fashion is generally up as people feel a little bit more confident. One of the things I find very frustrating is all this doom and gloom about the economy, when actually if we look at any of the data that we look, we can see since September and October and November and December, we're seeing quite big increases in traffic and to e-commerce websites, increases in searches. So people are obviously buying for Christmas, but there is growth in the market compared with the year before. So one of the tools that you can use is data from Answer the Public. Neil Patel, many people will recognize, he bought this product. You can only get 3 goes a day. And then you have to pay, and it can tell your IP address. So if you go to a new browser, it still knows it's you. You can see that it provides this search tool for Google, Bing, TikTok, YouTube, and Amazon. That TikTok knew, well, it's been there for at least 9 months to my knowledge. Actually, it's more than that. I think it was March I first spotted it. So you can enter a topic or a brand. So I'm going to just look at winter coat, and I'm going to look at it in Google and then TikTok. And I can choose the location, and I can choose the language. I can do that in Google, but I couldn't do that in TikTok. So I don't know whether it just knew that whether I was in UK or whether this data is actually worldwide. But winter coat in Google gave me, for the last 7 days, I think it was 40.5 thousand searches, which is, I think it is only 7 days worth of data, which is obviously a lot lower than you were seeing in the Google Trends data. And then for TikTok, it was 60.5 thousand, but I'm not sure whether that's just UK or whether that's worldwide data. Now, TikTok was turned off in the States, but only for a couple of days. So it is difficult to know exactly what this data is, but it's useful to see the comparison and also the trends over time. But there's a lot of searches. Another platform that you can look at is keywordtool.io, which is a multi-platform research. I found this because I was doing some other research and it said, go and look at here. And the reason why this is amazing is because look at all the different platforms you can get search data from. It does offer an API, but effectively you get nothing for free. So what I did was I think I did one search. So I did winter coat. And I did that in the UK, and I got winter coat research, 25,000, and that was in TikTok. I did choose UK, so that makes me suspect that the other one data was America, and this is the average search volume, but the trend is up 20% because, of course, the weather's changed. And very, very high competition at the moment. And the average, the average CPC is $1, which is ridiculously expensive. But notice here, and this is quite expensive, this tool. You're talking over $50 a month, which is quite expensive for a SaaS tool. So most people aren't going to be able to afford to use this. I think the Answer the Public one is quite a bit cheaper, but you don't get as many tools in this. Now, if you are really serious about TikTok, and if you're doing e-commerce, you should be, but you could be looking at this from also, even if you are not, you're not wanting to do ads, but you want to know whether people are talking about your service or what you do on TikTok, you can still use this tool. So you can go to ads.tiktok.com to the Business Creative Center, or just search for TikTok Creative Center. And you've got a whole load of tools. So keyword insights, creative insights, top products, education. So I did some research last year and typed keyword in it, and I typed dress, and I got some data. So this was some of the data that I got last year. There was a lot of dress related terms, and the popular, and I actually cut and paste this to make it work because you have to scroll along, which is a bit of a pain. So that's why I've kept it. So popularity is the number of ads that are showing in that last 7 days. And then you've got whether it's going up and down, click-through rates. This was CVR. I can't remember what CVR, conversion rates, I think. So this was, I'm not quite sure exactly how they were measuring that, so I'd need to check. And these also got CPA and impressions, 4 million impressions in the UK in the last 7 days, and how much was spent on those ads. Obviously, a lot of ads, click-through rates in TikTok actually are pretty good, not dissimilar to Google ads. And when we've done research, we've won a couple of awards last year on our work with TikTok ads. Thank you, Rachel Crine. Thank you, Books to Door. The cost per click was actually quite similar. So this cost per click was quite expensive compared with what I would expect. I then done it again, but this time looked at top products, and I've actually changed it. So this time, this is the last 7 days. So this is December data. And you can see that jackets and coats is actually the most popular topic at the moment in TikTok, in the ad center. So 4,000 ads to do with jackets and coats, click-through rate of 2.3%. I don't know whether this conversion rate without, I don't know whether Rachel's watching this, relates to conversion rates actually to the shop, or other tracking that they're doing. But you can go in and click details and find out a little bit more. So when I go into here, I can see loads more data. I can see the trends. This is only in the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks, so it doesn't go back too far. But you've got all the data in one place, much easier to see, but you only can do this one at a time. 4,000 ads, 7 million impressions, view rate, 6.8% view rate, that's 6 seconds, 8,000 likes, shares, comments, the cost of the advertising, because of course people will comment and share ads as well as organic posts. And then the age range. And the thing that you probably will notice is that you've got pretty much 65-70% are under 35. So 2/3 are under 35, and then you've got a third that are over 35. So what that means is I mean, this is proportionate to the size of the population, but TikTok definitely over indexes for these groups. And also you'll get a load of people that are under 18 that are pretending to be 18. So this is going to be interesting how this ages over the next few years. TikTok regards search ads and searching to be so important, though they actually launched a new search ad category. It's not officially available in the UK, although I think we found a bit of a workaround to try and get access to it. But officially it's still not available in the UK, but it is available in various international markets. Just before we go on, just to give you some context with this, TikTok Shop only launched in the UK not last May. Was it last May or was it the May before? I think it was the May before, because I think we did our award entries in September, and we've got about a year's worth of TikTok data where we'd sent ads to the shop versus the year before where we'd sent it to the actual website. And the improvements was massive. You know, previously it was losing money, but it was quite cheap traffic. But once TikTok came along, it was easy to get a 5-to-1 ROAS. So you could see how much you spent and how much money you made. And you could actually see that it was easy to get 5. So if you spent £10, you were making 50, for example. The only thing I would say, which is a bit of a caveat, is if you look at the sorts of products that are selling on there, it tends to be sub £50. There's also a lot of quite low value goods in there as well. So if you want to sell garden furniture at sort of 500 quid, you might not sell it very well on TikTok. Okay, so we're going into the last section. I'm losing my voice. Sorry about that. And we're going to be talking about generative AI and its impact on search. Now, fortunately, most of you are pretty frequent users. So whether you've got the paid or the free version of ChatGPT, you will be able to use the search button, and then you can ask it. Or if you just say go online, it will do the same thing. We do have the voice mode in the paid version, which is great as well. There's lots of other benefits, but you really need to watch one of the other webinars if you want to understand all the new stuff that's happening in ChatGPT, like custom GPTs and things like that. Gemini replaced Bard, and the paid version is called Advanced. We've got advanced versions of ChatGPT as well. Most of these are coming out at $20 a month. So I got a few screenshots to show you. I haven't built them. So what digital marketing conference are there in Leicester? So Leicester Digital Live, which is our conference from sort of a year ago. The new conference isn't showing yet in the AI results, and we might have to even do a redirect to show that we now got to the new one. So if anybody from the SEO team's listening, we need to update our titles and descriptions to replace it. You've also got, as you do more research, you get a lot more links in it now. And then you've also got the main links on the right hand side. Sometimes they're at the bottom. You are starting to see ads appear in AI overviews, particularly in the States. There's even shopping ads appearing in the AI overviews as well, although it's quite difficult to get screenshots of that. But I think one of the most important things, if you look at a result like this, is how much the organic SEO result is being pushed down. And although in this particular case you've got show more, I find more and more that the results aren't doing that. Now, the fact that they are putting really obvious links in here does compensate a little bit, but then you've then got to find out how to get into the AI and into the ChatGPT results, which is the sort of new discipline of generative search optimization. So if we go through and look at how often AI overviews are shown and predicted drop in traffic, which is the sort of news, you can see that AI overviews appeared in search. This was August 24. This was July. So this is the sort of gradual evolution as you're getting more and more results. If you did that now, remember they launched it May 24, and it was a complete disaster because of the things like rocks eating rocks and gluing pizzas and drinking urine, all sorts of mad hallucinations that it created. But of those, you can see that of those keywords, 13% of them had an ad associated with them. But this is USA data, and there's been various research and publications. There was something in the New York Times or Washington. I don't know whether it was Washington Times or New York Times back in October that was also talking about the demise of Google. But they definitely reckon that search engine volume is going to drop as other stuff comes in, and as we start talking about AI agents, which is where agents actually do tasks for you and stuff is automated, which is the big topic of 2025. You can see that a lot of the stuff that's in Google won't be necessary as it was before. And the other thing that I thought I'd mention, because I noticed it myself, I mean, this is not a big amount of data here. The direct is also slightly a red herring in our site, because we get a bot traffic every month, one day a month where we get a big spike of bot traffic. Quite a lot of sites I'm seeing this, so it's not just us. It's really difficult for us to delete that. But if you ignore that and look at the Google traffic and the chatbot, it's still quite small. You're talking about less than 1% there, but of course that is going to increase. But if you compare that with Bing, it's nearly caught up with, it's halfway to catching up with Bing. So I think we expect that to grow quite substantially over the next few months, particularly as the ChatGPT search engine was only launched back in really sort of July time, and then was more widely promote. You could go online before then, right back in May, but the search functionality, the real obvious search functionality, was much more recent. Okay, so of course, if you are very reliant on search traffic, then you're going to want to optimize your website. So we're talking about how to do generative AI. So the results are highly collated. They will definitely recommend brands, and most of the time, if you go and do a prompt and ask a question, it's going to be the big brands that are recognized. So how will SEOs and PPCs compete? Because all these results are being pushed down. Obviously, with things like e-commerce, the top is still full of ads. But you know, you've either got to pay your way, or your organic results are going to be pushed down all the time. And so what we're talking about now is generative search optimization being the new SEO. Loads of people have called it other things. Nothing's really stuck yet. So I really like this because I think it's really easy to remember. So I definitely think that SEO activities will change significantly over the next 2 years, particularly in the next year. And this is the elements of search engine optimization, which I'm just going to quickly explain. So the blue is where the data comes from. So you've got the training data in the large language models, and then you've got this thing called RAG, which is the ability to go and get live data, which supplements the training data. And those two together really are the knowledge of each of the search engine models. And of course, they will be different, and the way that they respond to your query or prompt will be different as well. So the other thing we need to know is, you know, what people are asking. And of course, they're not asking, you know, they're not asking for a keyword anymore or a phrase. They're asking these massive, great big prompts, which might have these tokens in them, which are the key points that you're looking for information for. But how the hell do we find out what people are actually asking? So we do need to use SEO tools, and then tools like Answer the Public, which will actually give us an idea of the sorts of questions people are interested in. But you've got to imagine that even if you were saying about, you know, I'm interested in buying storage, I might want to be asking about what's the best storage solution for a small garden. So although storage solution is the key phrase, there's always something around it, and understanding that is quite difficult. And then not only that is, were you mentioned in the responses? So how do you track it to see whether your brand or your competitors' brands actually came up in the answers? So the process of generative search optimization is very much in the same way as we find the key phrases. We understand Google algorithm, we understand the key phrases, we measure our ranking, and then we use SEO to reverse engineer that process. Well, we've got to do something very similar when we start to talk about GSO. So there are tools that are already giving us AI overviews. So this is, I can't remember which account this was. It was obviously to do with holidays, and it was UK Christmas holidays, where you can see that they were mentioned. And if you go and look at the result, you can see that if you go down, I think it was away resorts, which is where I've got my lodge, you can see that they were actually mentioned there. But manually to do that is a real ball ache, because you have to do each one at a time. So that means that it's a very big job, and you've actually got to go through and find out when you're mentioned and when you're not. But I do think one of the interesting things is to see the correlation of whether you're mentioned and whether you've got SEO, because they're number one for these things, and you can see that they are mentioned for some of them. And then you've got Zip Tie, which is an AI overviews tracking tool, which has been built specifically to find out whether there's something that's clicked. So it's not looking at mentions, it's looking at whether there's a link, which is different again. So not only were you in the text, but was there a link? It's two slightly different things. And then I wanted to then introduce some of our tools that we've built, and we're building a lot at the moment. So first of all, I may have mentioned Mammoth to you before, which uses the API, and sorry, there's a typo there. So that's OpenAI's API, and so you create skeleton product data, add that to Excel, you generate the prompts, and then you go out and create these API requests and bring the data back. We've also got, that's something that we provide as a service. So if you've got lots of content to create, we can create it for you. And grow and grab these links as well. And then I've also created a custom GPT called Virtual CMO, which is where you can go. It's like ChatGPT, but it's been trained on lots of information, and you can go in and you can use it for your own business, and you can create personas, content calendars. There's lots of things. So if you start by saying, what can you do for me? It will tell you all the things that it can do. So I definitely recommend that you go and look at our one of our first Annika agents, which is the Virtual CMO, and you can get to that via Annika AI Virtual CMO. We've got a load more of these that we're creating at the moment. With regard to how we will measure it, we've already played around with this, and we can take a similar approach of using the API to go and find the mentions of key phrases. I've actually got an Excel spreadsheet. But effectively, you need to be able to measure stuff before you can reverse engineer it. And so we need to understand that. And I'm not going to go through this, but we start off with a spreadsheet with at the top with the, this case, it's school supplies. And then we've got the prompts that we create. And then if we add them together, we create a prompt like this. You can see it's sort of got the hashtags which help you understand it. So that's what that prompt is. And then we basically send that prompt. Sorry, that's actually the answer. So we send that prompt, which is a combination of what we've got here and this. We send that through the API, and then we bring back the answer into ChatGPT. And then that's what the answer looks like. So you can then use that and convert that into normal text that you'd add into your sort of analysis. So in here we can see that for this particular prompt, TES got mentioned, YPO got mentioned, Findle Education Resources got mentioned, Staples got mentioned. So these are all them. This is actually what ChatGPT returned when we asked for that supplier. And then we can do the analysis of whether your brand is there, and then competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3 is there. And so in this case, this one, they were there, but their first competitor was mentioned twice, the third competitor. So this is almost like a way of ranking how often you're mentioned for key phrases versus your competitors. But it's done in a way that you can look across multiple key phrases. And then we can then use some AI to to visualize this into some reports. I've just realized I've overrun, so I won't run through all the conclusions, but because I just want to bring up a couple of offers. But you can see that the world is definitely changing. All these new search engines and paid social and retail media, they're all massively increasing. And when you add in ChatGPT and AI-powered search as well, it means that the amount of traffic that you're going to get from SEO and paid is really threatened. So I don't know whether any of you have been around long enough to remember Panda, where we saw large drops of traffic. It can have a massive impact. And you're now going to have strategies for generative search optimization. Solutions, guys, is channel diversification. You need to spread your, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And you're going to have to look at your on-page optimization strategy around SEO, PPC, and generative search optimization to make sure that you can be found in all of those results. So quickly, some resources for you. This deck is going to be available here. It hasn't been uploaded yet, but you'll get it later. Also, if you are in e-commerce, please go and sign up for our birthday e-commerce lunch on the 13th of February in Leicester. And then Finally, we've got Epic 25, which is our e-commerce conference. So I have given you a barcode, but I'm also going to, oh, hello, Darren. I'm also going to just launch a pop-up. So if you'd like to, if you would like a free ticket, if you're a retailer or an e-commerce website, you can apply for a free ticket. And we are still looking for sponsors. So if any of you are tech suppliers, please let us know. We're still looking for sponsors. And then finally, I don't know how many questions there were, Darren.
There were a few. I think it's been really interesting conversations that have happened around loads of things. TikTok specifically, someone was asking about a product that they're launching around antioxidant and skincare beauty and the demographics related to TikTok. So I've just been singing the praises of the work that we've seen and done on TikTok, specifically around certain products, beauty, fashion, any impulse purchase, that type of thing. Really, really good on TikTok, especially within certain demographics. And then just
and
talking
also
about
the partner network, the users and the generated content, they'll do TikTok live stream then to sell your product for you, and you can sell out really quickly. So that's a massive new thing as well. Sorry, you were going to say something else?
Leading on from that, so the media choices and the content that you decide to use and the strategies around influencers, when you move onto a platform like that, it comes with all of those questions around what strategic choices and content you decide to deploy on that channel. But it's shown really good results.
Absolutely. If any of you'd like to leave a review, that would be amazing. Apologies for overrunning. Still a lot of you have hung around, but thank you very much for staying around, and we will go and share the video in a couple of hours. Thanks, everybody. I think it's James Allen next week. I can't remember what he's talking about, but join us next week. Oh, he's talking about data visualization, marketing data, that's reports and things like that. So definitely one to watch. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.